Good morning. We're trying something different today with a more spaced out setup. Got some feedback from people actually watching this. Um, Thank you. Told them I was too far, too close up in my personal space. So we'll try this. And I was also told that it's apparently cooler to talk with like a cup in your hand and all the yeah. It just makes it. I don't know what it does. It's like a talking stick maybe, or you just know what to do with your hands. It's just centers around a cup, focuses attention a little bit, adds a bit more natural vibe. Like I'm not an AI, I'm drinking water. Uh, anyway, we'll see how this goes, and I'm committed to keep evolving this. I think 2 days ago, I started chatting about Bitcoin from like a cultural ethos standpoint, and like the people I met in Dallas, and how that was a lot of fun. But I had like a second part to it to really talk about the you know Bitcoin from a financial perspective, or like for financially minded people. None of this is financial advice; it's just my own thoughts. Um, but there's been a lot of people saying that you just got to let Bitcoin do its thing. Just let number go up, and that's how you adopt more people. How you get more people to adopt it. Like trying to share with them your cultural standpoint, your passionate standpoint, your philosophical standpoint. Fine if you align on those things, it works. But for most people, it's going to be just number go up, and really, I guess at the end of the day, it's a branding exercise. Like even with a startup, I think initially you're talking about with your initial clients, you're talking about this feature, that feature, how it's better on this point, better on that point. Really takes care of their pain and all that. But after a certain point, once you start hitting critical mass and like starting to get traction, like really scaling it up, um, those specifics, they're not defined anymore. Like people don't talk about the specifics of why Uber is better. It's just like there's a brand, it gets me somewhere, I like it. It becomes a much more emotional decision. Like most of our decisions are honestly emotional, and it becomes that way. And number go up, price go up is a key feature and part of that adoption process for people getting into Bitcoin. Now what, like, from a and then for actually, I think like financial people who professional investors actually have the hardest time with this, to just understanding what Bitcoin is. And you know what, like, some will say you can't define Bitcoin, you just can't put a definition on it. But I do see some like trends, or just transitions, and patterns, right? And we're pattern recognizing, pattern seeking creatures. And what I've noticed and have talked to some people about is how Bitcoin's really going through like transitions, and how it stands out as well from other crypto is this transitionary phase, these steps that it's taking that the others aren't or can't. Particularly, number one is that like the idea of it being a tech stock. Like if you value it like a tech stock, just like every other crypto out there, you know they have a foundation, they have a mission, they have a team, they're trying to achieve a goal. And just like a startup, it could go way up or way down. um, and say So I think Bitcoin had that phase. Like there was a phase where it's like, oh, is this even going to work out, succeed, whatever? What does it mean, what's its actual use case? And it's past that phase. I'm fully convinced that it's past that phase. Yet someone coming new into Bitcoin's probably still going to be like, no, it's still a tech stock, and that's fine. Like I think if you believe it's a tech stock, like treat it as a tech stock in your stock. Hold it though, just see where it goes, and I'm pretty sure your perspective will change. I currently see it personally more as a commodity, like it reflects and behaves and acts more like a commodity, a volatile one. But just like gold, silver, oil, and things, it's really acting like a commodity. The futures market also represents that, the mining aspect represents that. And that's how I believe people should be trading it, at least in the current spectrum. Now, this is a difference or deviation from like what I believe it is and it can be, right? And there's the now and the future. And I'm not there yet, honestly, but there are people, right? Well, I'm getting there. There's two more steps after this, I think, and I'll reference this against gold, but tech stock, commodity, store of value where you're borrowing against it, and then currency. I think these are like distinct well, they're distinct phases. They kind of blend into each other, but they are phases that um, Bitcoin can go through. And in fact, I'd say gold had gone through and it's almost kind of going back in reverse. Gold was once the currency, the medium of exchange, right? And then what's it called? With fiat, people were lending money against gold, right? That's what fiat is or was at the very beginning. It was like an IOU for gold that you held at an institution, bank. And at that point, gold itself honestly stopped being the medium of exchange. It became a store of value. It became like what property is today, like real estate. You can, like, nobody uses it as a medium of exchange, but it's this great store of value. People borrow against it all the time to finance whatever they might need. They mortgage it, like you get a really good rate on your real estate. It's a good store of value. Nobody really does that with gold anymore. I think when we depegged from gold, it really stopped being that great store of value that you can borrow against. It still is, honestly. Like, you can get a really good rate if you go to like a pawn shop. Pawn shop's a bad example, but a Swiss bank in large amounts, you can get a really good fiat rate against gold, and it's not done ubiquitously. And in many ways, gold has returned to being a commodity. So that's what Bitcoin is, and I imagine Bitcoin is going towards a place where it's being used as prime collateral. People are borrowing against it, like, in increasingly longer terms and increasingly lower rates, and that's only going to continue as a trend, like potentially for the next 10 years. And only after that, like once it starts really getting to the level of being able to do what real estate does, will it take that next step to transition to actually being a medium of exchange and currency. People are living, though, in that 2050 scenario already. I have met people that they live 90% of their lives earning Bitcoin and spending in Bitcoin. Like, it's absolutely amazing to watch. Like, there are those small communities that have started forming. So in some sense, it's not even Bitcoin that's going through these phases, but just the number of people that are going through the phases of how they experience Bitcoin. So don't try to define it. Just see where you fall for yourself in terms of what it is for you, and let it teach you something. And that's the other thing I got from Dallas, that generally Bitcoin is it's unique in a way that it really teaches you, that it teaches you a lot of things, and among them is like just financial independence. It changes your time preference, where you would rather where you'd rather save today and spend later, unless it's generating cash flow. It makes you more business oriented, helps you have kids. People come to it from so many different directions, right? Again, mentioned this before, but I want to give it a more financial perspective on how it's defined, how people see it, where people are on the spectrum, and where you might be. And if you find that useful, let me know. Follow and like, and we can continue to talk about this. Thank you for listening. Take care.